students. So today in this session we are going to deal with the chapter 5, materials, metals and the non-metals. Okay. So first of all we are going to study about what do you mean by metals. So when you enter the classroom or when you enter somebody's home or yourself home, so what you found? You see that many things are there. Suppose almirah is there, furnitures are there, so many things are there. And they all are made up of different things. Suppose we talk about the sofa set or some bed or the dining table, we see that they are made up of wood. Sometimes we see the almirahs in the room, they are made up of some iron material. So the wood, plastic, all this comes under the non-metals, and the almirah, or sometimes we see the dining tables or the chairs made up of wrought iron, they all comes under the metals. So today first we are going to study about the metals, and in the next session we will deal about the non-metals. So when I am talking about the metals, first we will talk about the physical properties. Physical properties. Actually, what do you mean by the word physical? Physical means the appearance, the physical appearance, the first look, what you get or what you observe. Okay, so that is the physical property of that substance. Suppose we talk about the metals. What we see when we see any metallic things, we see that we feel like that, and when we touch also we feel that it is very hard. Okay, it is shiny in appearance, and then we can say that they have high density and so on, and it can't be easily broken and so on. So one by one we will deal with these physical properties. First, when we talk about all the metals are in solid in room temperature. When we see any metallic things, we see that it is solid in state. Why it is solid in state? Because in the room temperature, it requires a high temperature to melt. Because of that, they are solid in state. It can't be molten. Have you seen any almirah in the room in the molten state? No, no. So, because they require high temperature. But among the metals also, few metals are there which are not in solid state. Can you give me the example? Okay. So, the example is the mercury. Mercury is liquid in state, because in comparison to the other metals, we can say it requires bit low melting point. So, they are it is in the liquid state. We can denote mercury by Fe. You would have seen the use of mercury mostly in the thermometer. Okay. Now, the second point is metals have high density. High density. What do you mean by the word density? Density means that suppose you can take the example, take few nails, iron nails, and put it in the water. What you will see? Will it float on the water or will it get drawn? It gets drawn, means it gets settled down, because the density of the metal is more. But among the metals also, there are two metals like sodium and potassium which have the low density. Means that when we take the block of sodium and put it in water, it will flow, because only these two metals are there which have the low density. Rest other metals all get drowned. Okay, get sink into the water. All the metals are hard. So when we see or when we touch the metal, what we feel? That they are very hard. We can't easily break the metal. So we require something hard to give us stuck on it, and then only we can break. But only two metals are there, like not two, we can say 3-4 metals like sodium, potassium, Pb means lead. Okay, these are the metals, they are soft, they can be easily cut. We can say that sodium and potassium can be cut with the help of the knife also. Now, they have the property of malleability. All the metals have the property of malleability. You know what is the meaning of malleability? See, whenever you go out in the open, not in the open, in the market area, what you see the welding shops, okay. You see that they are beating with the hammer, big iron material blocks they are beating, and then they are giving the new shapes in the form of sheets and all. So this property of changing the metal by beating and changing into a thin sheets is known as the malleability. So metals have this property of malleability. They can be beaten into thin sheets. Now they have the property of ductility. This means that when the metals are melted, they can be changed into or drawn into the form of wires. Only this property is having in the metals only, that they can be changed into the various shape. They can be drawn into the wires. For example, if you have seen the electric copper wires in your home, what you see the thin wire, how it happens? It happens that by melting the copper blocks, it is changed into a wires which are used into the electricity wires. So this property of changing into the wires is known as the ductility. Now comes that if you move forward, what we see that they are lustrous. They are lustrous means they have a shiny appearance. When we see any metallic thing, it is very shiny in appearance, like gold ornament. You might have seen your mothers wearing the ornaments made up of gold or silver. So what you see, they are very shiny in appearance, okay. When your mother brings a new copper vessel, it is very shiny in appearance. So steel utensils, they are so shiny in appearance because they have the property of lustrous. Now the last property is that sonorous. All the metals have the property of sonorous. Sonorous means when beaten with anything or struck with anything, they give some characteristic sound. And suppose in the school also you might have seen that the bell rings. You would have seen the big iron plate. It is struck with a hammer and it gives you a sound, a characteristic sound. This sound is only found in the case of the metal. This property of giving a characteristic sound is known as the sonorous, and only it is seen in the metals. Okay. Well, not only the bell, if you see in the kitchen when your mother is doing any work and suppose two utensils get stuck together, or in the kadhai, big pans your mother is stirring with a spoon, it gives some characteristic sound. This sound is known as the sonorous. So this completes the physical property, and now moving forward we will deal with the chemical properties. The word chemical means when the internal reaction is taken place and a new thing is formed. So this is known as the chemical properties of the matter. First, all the metals react with oxygen and form the metal oxides. So the best example to explain this is the rust. Everybody has seen rust? Brown color, yellowish powder, it is known as the rust. See, when you keep something old, chairs or the gates, iron gates during the rainy season, what you see, or when any iron thing is kept for a long time in the open, what you see after some time, that the iron gets rotten, okay, and you see the powdery, yellowish, brownish color powder like structure. This is rust. How it is formed? That chair which was kept in the open was made of iron, and when this iron comes in contact with the oxygen, it forms its oxides, okay. So right, so the metal reacts with oxygen and form the oxide. So how can it be prevented? Now suppose we have to prevent its reaction with oxygen, or we prevent the rusting procedure. So what we will do? We will put a paint on the gate or the chair or the anything which we want to get it protected, so that it forms a layer and the contact with that iron metal and the oxygen gets cut off, and so it can be prevented from getting rusted. Now reaction reacts with acids. All the metals reacts with the acids and it forms its salt. Now in the previous class also, or the previous class also, you have studied that sodium is a metal. Now this sodium reacts with HCl. HCl means hydrochloric acid, and it forms NaCl, means sodium chloride, which is a common salt which you people use daily in cooking and oil. So all the metals reacts with acid. Suppose now, see, you might have seen at home also that you, while preserving the pickles or anything which is made up of acid like vinegar, squash, your mother used either the for prevent this lemon juice and all. For preserving, she used a plastic bottle. For preserving the sauce or the chutney or the pickles, she used a plastic container. Because if she will keep in the something aluminium, steel or the metallic vessel, what will happen? This acid present in the pickle or the sauce or the chutney will react with the metal and it will form the salt, and which will spoil the pickle. So it is stored in the plastic containers. Now it reacts with water and forms hydroxide. Metals always reacts with the water and it forms the metallic hydroxide. See, mostly the metals reacts with the water, but few metals do not react. So suppose we take the example of the gold. You people are wearing the gold ornaments, you might have seen, and when you brought it, the same shiningness is maintained till the many days or many years. Why? Because it is less reactive. But if you talk about the other metals like copper, silver ornaments, if you are wearing after few days, before that it is having a shining appearance, but after a few days what you find, it started getting blackish in color. Why? Because it started reacting with the water or the sweat of your body, and it start forming the hydroxide, layer of hydroxide, which because of which the appearance, shining appearance goes off. Same as if we take the example of the copper jugs. When your mother fills a copper jug and keep it for a night, in the morning what you see, that the outer side of the jug gets covered with a greenish layer. Why? Because the copper hydroxide is formed, and because of that what happens? Its original shininess goes. Okay. So this was the chemical properties of metals. So before leaving the session, we will just give a glance over all the topics taught today. First, all the metals are solid in state except the mercury. Second, metals have high density except sodium and the potassium. All the metals are hard except sodium, potassium and lead. They have the property of malleability, means they can be beaten into thin sheets. Then they have the property of ductility, means they can be melted and drawn into the wires. Then they are lustrous, means have a shiny appearance. And the last is they have the property of sonorous, means they have, when beaten or when struck to something, it gives a characteristic sound. Then we comes to the chemical properties. All the metals react with oxygens and form oxides. They react with the acid, they form its salts, reacts with water and form hydroxide. So this is for today's session. In next session, we will deal with the physical and the chemical properties of the non-metal. Secondly, students, hope you are maintaining your notebooks. You know, next month we are going to start with our second assessment, in which the lessons which are coming. Chapter 2 is coming, Chapter 4 is coming, and Chapter 11 is coming. So, be prepared with all these chapters. Soon your syllabus will be shoot up in your WhatsApp groups, and hope maintain your copies and do the work completed as the session goes on, so that it will help you in learning. So, thank you.